So it's the beginning of the year, which is a great time to determine your financial health. And what do I mean by that? Basically, I mean, how are you financially? Do you feel like you are in good financial health, bad financial health? Like, where do you stand? Are you somewhere in like a midpoint? And so in today's video, I'm going to talk about how we can actually figure out how we are financially. So I think the most popular way to determine how you're doing financially is through your credit score. So if you don't know what a credit score is, let me give you like a really quick summary. So your credit score can be anywhere from 300 to 850. 300 is bad. 850 is like amazing. And basically it's just like a score that society uses to judge you on your finances. And I personally, this is a personal belief, but I don't really like having a credit score. It's something that we as a society or like lawmakers made up in like the 80s or 70s. Like it's, so relatively speaking, it's pretty new in like history, but we use it to see the likelihood of someone paying something back. So if you go into debt, how likely are you to pay that debt back? And your credit score does not actually mean if you are poor versus rich or wealthy. Like you can not have a lot of money to your name, but actually have a really high credit score. And on the opposite side, you can have a lot of money in your bank account, but have a bad credit score. So I don't really like them. And I just feel like it's kind of like this scam that society came up with. But that is the game that we are playing, and that's the rules of the game. So it is actually important to have a credit score and to make sure it's good, even though I personally don't really support them. But nonetheless, it's important to have. So that 300 to 850, that's a really big range, and there's like different segments within that range. So first, there's 300 to 600. Anything in that range, it's bleak, financially speaking. So anywhere between 300 to 600, that's considered a poor credit score. Then we have a range of 600 to 660. That is considered a fair credit score. So it's not good, but it's better than nothing, basically. And then we move up from 660 to 780. Anywhere in that range, you are considered good. So if you're trying to buy a car and your credit score is in that range, that's a good place to be. If you're trying to buy a house, that's a good range to be. Opening up a new credit card, that's still a good range. And then we have the people at the very top, the people who are in the 780 to 850 range. That is the excellent people. These are the top people in society. These people can open up any credit card they want. They get the best interest rates on anything. So yeah, that's like the place that you want to be. I myself, I'm pretty sure I don't fall in that category. I want to be. I have a goal this year to get to like an 800 credit score. But I'm not there personally. I'm in the good range. I'm in that 660 to 780 range. It's somewhere in the 700s, but I need to check to see what it actually is. Which reminds me, if you don't know your credit score, there are a lot of different ways that you can find it out for free. So some websites are myfico.com. You can use creditkarma.com, or if you have different like credit cards, a lot of credit cards will actually tell you your credit score for free. So there's lots of different ways, and I personally would try to keep up with it and like don't go a year without it. Like if you can, check every quarter. I don't know if it's necessary to check every month because it shouldn't be changing that much unless you're doing things to affect your credit score, which I can tell you about in a second. But if you aren't doing things to affect it, then it shouldn't really change that much month to month. But I think like quarterly is a good just like temperature check to see where your credit score is at. And like I was saying, there are different things to affect it. The biggest thing that you have to control your credit score is paying your bills on time. That doesn't mean paying them in full or paying debt off. It just means whatever your minimum monthly payment is for whatever bill, make sure you pay that on time. So don't have any late payments. If you have a late payment, I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear that like airplane going by, so sorry if you can. But if you do have late payments, that is what will dramatically drop your score. So I know life happens, but if you have any control over your circumstances at all, make sure you don't have any late payments. Other really big things are, things that can affect it. So the age of your credit is important. So if you're younger and you just haven't had a lot of time to build your credit score, so if your credit age is like only 2 years old, there's not much you can do with that factor. You just have to be patient and let time go by. I think I opened my first credit card when I was 22. So I have almost 10 years of credit. Woo! So I'm like getting up there because I'm 31. But yeah, so that's not really anything that you can control. There are some people who their parents took out like credit cards and bills in their name when they were a kid. So they may have like a bigger or an older credit age than you. But again, unless you were just some really financially savvy 7-year-old, you wouldn't have known to tell your parents like, hey, put this bill in my name, make sure you pay it on time, and always like pay it. But you don't really have a lot of control over that is basically what I'm trying to say. So just wait it out. Another really big thing is called your credit utilization. So that is basically, let's say you open up a credit card and it has a limit of $1,000. If they give you that credit card and then a month later you have used all $1,000 on that credit card, that means you have maxed it out. And in their mind, the like credit bureau's mind, that means that you are irresponsible because you used all that was available to you. So you would have a really high credit utilization. That's what that's called. So rule of thumb, you want your credit utilization to be under 30%. So again, in this example, if you have $1,000 on your credit limit for this credit card, don't use more than $300, because if you do, then that will take you over the 30%, because 30% of 1,000 is 300. If I did that math correctly, which I think I did. And credit utilization, that applies to all of your lines of credit. So for me personally, I have like at least 6 credit cards, right? So my total credit utilization would include all of those credit cards. So even if one of those credit cards, I have like a higher balance on them, overall, my credit utilization is quite low because the other ones don't have a high balance, as an example. So those are like the biggest things that can affect your credit score. And knowing your credit score is a huge way to determine how financially healthy you are, at least to outside people, right? The people who would care about that are people like car dealerships, if you ever wanted to get a new car, if you wanted to buy a house, if you wanted to get a personal loan from like a credit union or something, if you wanted to open up a new credit card. Those are the type of people who would care about your credit score. If you are rich and have a lot of cash, then your credit score won't matter as much because you would just pay cash for everything. But most of us aren't like that, and most of us really benefit from having access to credit. So that's why you want to make sure that you have a good credit score. Another way to kind of check how you're doing financially is to know your net worth, which I plan on doing a whole video about that at some point in time. So your net worth is basically knowing how much you owe and how much you own, right? So things that you owe are your liabilities. Like for me, I have student loans. That's my biggest liability. What else can be? Any form of debt, really, like any medical debt that you have, if you have consumer debt like on credit cards, if you have a mortgage, Did I say car payments already? If not, car payments. All of these are forms of liabilities. And then you have things called assets. So that example of you having a car payment, you also have an asset with that car payment because you have the car, or at least you will when it's paid off. So for me, with my car costs like $18,000 when I bought it. It's now paid for though. So now I have an asset, which is a car, meaning if I ever wanted to sell that car, I could sell it and I could get money for it. And because I picked a car that really holds its value, I have a Honda. I think the last time I checked, which was like a year ago, I think my car was valued at like $12,000, and it's 6 years old at this point. So over the course of 6 years, I would say it like really held its value. Also, right now, used cars have gone up in value in general, but nonetheless. But basically, in order to have a positive net worth, you want to have a higher value in assets than you do in liabilities. And if it's the opposite of that, if you have more liabilities than you have assets, then that means you have a negative net worth. And so other forms of assets, I know I already said, like if you own your car or you own a house, any of your like savings accounts are assets, your retirement accounts, if you have a brokerage account, any of those things are also included as your assets. So those are two ways that you can know how you're doing financially, knowing your credit score and knowing your net worth. I hope this video was helpful. If it was, give it a thumbs up, leave some comments down below, and I'll see you next time.